Good afternoon, guys. So today I'm going to go over some and answer some questions about unschooling. So I asked on Facebook if anyone had any questions about unschooling, and so I thought that I would go over that. First of all, somebody asked for me to define unschooling, and that's actually really kind of hard to define it. If I were to define it, I probably would say that it's child-led homeschooling. And that means that pretty much your child would decide what they're learning about on a regular basis. Now, to me, that doesn't mean that I can't introduce lots of things. And I think that that's really important. I like to introduce things through um, going on a field trip, visiting different places, through reading historical fiction books, through maybe I might take something out, say, one child was interested in knitting. I might take a bunch of it out and be like, "Hey, everybody, let's give this a go here," and we would learn like how to knit, or how to cook, or how to crochet, or how to wood burn, or how to build something. Um, Also, we are do-it-yourselfers. So me more than my husband would say, okay, I see this area in our home and I wanted to fix this area. Say the plumbing was broken. If at all possible, I would take older people along and I would learn with them. But overall, basically, unschooling is child-led learning. That doesn't mean that you're not using curriculum. It just means that it's more child led and not, um, you have to do this for so many hours and whatever. I use a reading curriculum and to get my kids to learn how to read. And so they do that, but they only do like whatever portion they feel up to doing in that day. So if they only can manage half a page and they're just getting frustrated, then half a page it is. If they're having a good day and they want to do 4 or 5 pages, then they can do 4 or 5 pages. If they're really having an off day and they're struggling and they don't want to do it that day, then I am okay with saying, okay, let's do something else, or let's figure out something else. I think it's really important to read aloud to your children, to read aloud storybooks as well as bigger books about all different subjects. I want books that come alive. Charlotte Mason talks a lot about non-twaddle books, I think is what she uses as a term, but really books that come alive to your children. I don't look up, oh, just Charlotte Mason books, but if we start reading a book and it's not a good book, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I can't read it. It's too difficult for me to read this because of the terminology or the way that it's like being approached or something like that. And I'll just be done with it. If anyone wants to read this, then you guys can go ahead. I'm struggling with this book. So, whatever. If there seems to be like there's more interest, then I would allow them to I would continue reading it for them. But if everyone kind of just seems like, oh, this is so boring, then I'm not going to do it. It's pointless because they're not going to retain that information. In public schools, you're taught to sit and read things through curriculum. Well, a lot of the things that you're learning in that curriculum are things that can be learned in different ways. You can learn um, you can learn so many different things by just going to do things. Say you want to learn about certain things in history. If I'm reading a history book about World War II, the kids might be like, oh my goodness, this is so boring. But if I read them a historical fiction book about different people, maybe, somebody who was Jewish, maybe somebody who was a Christian, maybe it's somebody who was in the concentration camps. Maybe it's somebody who later turned their life over to Christ but was on, Hitler's side. All these different things, they can get a better grasp of a picture than sitting there reading the book like blah 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 blah. So, or that's what we found in our homeschool. A lot of times they'll remember it. They'll start talking to other kids about it. They'll tell them like they're so engaged in the story that's being told. They want to share that information. And because of that, then they're learning it. So unschooling is definitely not not learning. You want to be learning. It's child direct and parent direct learning. It's not curriculum direct learning. So we went to the state house on our way back from vacation, and that brought up a lot of questions. So we're looking together to find out answers to those questions. Well, if they learned that in a textbook at a certain age, they might not remember that information. But the people who are asking those questions right now, we're going to learn about it. We're going to learn about, we stopped also at, there's the largest globe in the world close to that same area on our way back, and we stopped there. And then that got into the whole thing of what's the Guinness Book of World Records. So we're going to get some Guinness Books of World Records throughout the year, so they can look at different things that have been added or not added to the Guinness Book of World Records. So it doesn't mean not learning. It's just that your child is going to be the one who's deciding. You're asking your children on a regular basis, hey, what do you want to learn? You're acknowledging if they're interested in the subject. And that could be changed. If a child wants to learn, okay, say a child wants to learn drawing, and they start drawing and they are drawing for like 2 weeks straight. And then you're like totally in it with them. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't want to do it. It's like, okay, you don't have to do it. Like, you can work on something else that you're learning. Sometimes they need to draw for a little bit and then take a step back, let all that retain into their brain, and then they can go forward. And that's okay too. So let's see what other questions I have here. It says, we need to follow guidelines set. So how is unschooling different? We do homeschool, but we need to follow guidelines set. So how is unschooling different? I think the question more is, how do you legally unschool? So I legally unschool because it depends on your state, honestly. Our state is the state of Maine. And I take a culmination of different things that the kids do throughout the year. And we get that together, whether it's pictures, whether it's me just writing a book. Actually, I'll be back in 2 seconds and I'll show you that. So I'm back and I have this. So this is just a regular planner like this. And I just take the page days here. And on each date, I write down things that we are working on or have worked on. So on the 5th of December, we listened to Oliver Twist. That was an audiobook that we were listening to while we were driving. So we listened to audiobook in the car. So that was on December 5th. We also did a webinar with the author of Susanna's Midnight Ride, which was really interesting. The girl who won the Revolutionary War. So that was just totally different. Something had come up. Somebody mentioned that you could do this for free. So I was like, hey, you guys want to do this? And they said, yeah. So we did that. So other days look like reading, touch typing, Bible. We're always reading something out loud. We're always working on some sort of Bible. And then we're throwing reading in there. We're doing touch typing. We're doing some things on, I have like 2 old phones that just have a couple apps downloaded or whatever for like times tables or whatever, if the kids want to do it, or preschool type games or whatever that they're able to do. Or some of them are like geography quizzes that they want to do. So yeah, so we do that type of stuff. And I would give the teacher. So in our state, you can have a teacher look over your stuff. And so I would give this notebook to the teacher. If there was any workbook sheets, I would give samples of those. In here, I also write field trips that we go on. You can always, some years I would go to a place like Snapfish and make, sit in my lap. So she has napping hair. She didn't really nap, but she was laying down. So we just don't touch the buttons, okay? So I would write those down. on a piece of paper, or some years I would make a photo book of the things that we did, and I would send that along with the notebook here. And so the teacher who is looking our information over, then they can see all the information. You're just needing to make progress. You do not need to be, and you're counting. So in Maine, it's 175 days. We go well over the 175 days. Because we are always learning. It's not how many days did you do a workbook. That's not what the state mandates. The state says 175 days of learning, and we feel like we're constantly learning. I do feel like it's my job as a mother to guide and direct my children in all areas of life, and that is one area that I'm also guiding and directing. If somebody doesn't look like they're learning, then I might evaluate that and see where they need to be, where they need to go, if we need to have a conversation, and those types of things. So I'm looking for my phone. I hope that answered your question as far as legality type things. So basically, in our state, you submit your stuff to a certified teacher. You pay them a fee for taking their time to do that, and then they give you the paperwork back saying that that child is making progress, and then you send that to your local superintendent. It used to be that you sent it state and local. It's changed, so now it's just your local superintendent. Okay, so this one's kind of funny. It says, what do you do when your husband gets upset that they don't know all the presidents or all the math times tables and aren't great spellers or readers? I think that could happen in traditional school, right? Like, you have children that are going to be great in one thing and not so great in other things. Ways that you can get your children to learn in different manners is, like, we have a game that's about presidents. So if something is really important to your husband, you can sit down and say, what's really important to you for the children to learn? And my husband used to kind of be that way, like, oh, that one's not reading yet and whatever. He used to have a hard time, but now that they've grown and he's seen how much they've grown in so many areas. I just heard him speaking to somebody the other day, and he was like, yeah, I don't know why we all think that, only book work is important. There's so many more skills that are so much more important. And that's totally not something that he would say. Is like, yeah, he thinks the kids are so smart and whatever. And I think they are too. They're so well-rounded. I think that's what he was getting at. And that's what the person who was talking to my husband was saying to my husband was, wow, how are your children so well-rounded? He's like, they're polite, they're nice, and we get that a lot. Like, how are our children so well-rounded? And so he was kind of answering that question. We've been homeschooling and whatever. So as far as specific things, like, say it's really important to you, for us, it's really important that our number one thing is we want our children to choose Jesus as their Lord and Savior. That's like number one. Like, we want our children to be followers of Christ, and everyone else may have different, things that they want, but we also don't want to, like, indoctrinate them in that. We want them to come and ask questions and be able to ask those questions so that we can answer, like it says in Peter, to answer. I can't think. I'm sorry. But yes, we should be. Yeah, we should be able to answer people's questions. And if we don't know the answer to the question, then to look that up together and to know why we believe in creation over evolution, and to know, why we don't believe in different things that might be in the political realm right now. I don't want to say too many things on here because I'm not quite sure about the YouTube laws or regulations or whatever. But we want our children to know why they're making the decisions that they're making. Okay. So if it's important, like math times tables, my kids, they have this little card. If they want to carry that around that has the times tables on it, then they can carry that. There's also a ton of games on a computer that I'm sure if you have a computer, you could just have them playing on a little a little phone or tablet or something like that. There's plenty of games like that to them they would they would ask to do that. Where if you're having them sit there and doing sheets of times tables, then they're going to be like, I don't want to be doing this all day. Okay, so how do we graduate them? It really depends on what area they are going in. If they are wanting to, our oldest son went to college. And so depending on the college, you have to speak to the college. Please don't. You have to speak to the college. They may need a transcript. And usually the teacher that is working with you, I know personally our teacher that reviews our information each year, she would gladly go over those things on how to write a transcript for our child to get off to college. So that would be if you were going to college. If you are not going to college, it is your choice when you want to graduate that child. Some of our children might go earlier, some might go later. I actually would prefer for them to go later. I have a daughter who's 18 right now, and she's pretty much finished with her schoolwork, but I want to give her that opportunity. She's written a couple books, and I want to give her that time, that space, that she's able to do that and to consider that as part of her schooling as well. So she's doing a year of that, and then I'll graduate her this spring. And so if you need an actual diploma, you can just go online and print off an actual diploma on cardstock, and that can be used if they need it for employment or anything like that. Let's see. So that goes in with the how do you get a job without a diploma? Most of my children who have had jobs didn't even need a diploma because people that hired them were requesting my children because they have such good ethics. So like recently I just had one of the head librarians ask if my children would be interested in a librarian type position. And even though they haven't gone to college or anything, because of their character and because of their character qualities, that would be something that they would be okay with training on the job. So all you really need is if you need a diploma, then you would just print out a diploma and say, here you go. If you needed somebody else to sign it, then you could always have the head teacher that looks your stuff over sign it. But most of the time you don't. Most of the time you can just be that head teacher. The only real time is when you need to do transcripts, and your head teacher should be able to help you out with that. So how do they ever learn to read or do any of the basic life requires? We do a phonics reading type program, but they choose their own pace. We read a lot out loud to them, out loud to them, and we think that that's good for their character, for history, for science, and for reading themselves. Then as the kids learn how to read, then they will read out loud to their siblings, which is good as well. So I don't know about the basic skills life needs. It really depends on what type of job you're interested in, what type of skills that you need. I mean, most of our children are really well rounded. We run a family business, so we deal with money, and adding and subtracting and all that type of stuff comes up. I allow my older children to make budgets and learn how to budget groceries and budget just day-to-day stuff. They have watched through things with Dave Ramsey. They have watched through different debt type things. They've watched us, and we're pretty open. We are pretty open as a family about things like debt. We paid off our home this year, and it was kind of a decision. I really felt heavy on my heart. I really felt heavy on my heart this year, before my son Bobby died, that we needed to get extra money to pay off the mortgage. And it was really weird because I've never felt that way. And so I spoke to my 3 older daughters who were 17 and older. And I said, I really feel this way. And they said, this is when my husband was taking care of my son, Bobby. And so they said, yeah, let's all work together and then we'll just try to like make money, and whatever we make, then we'll just like put it on the mortgage and then maybe we can pay it off. So we went and we worked and we paid it down by a lot. I think we paid like $6,000 on it, something like that. We paid quite a bit on the mortgage itself. And then we got our tax return, and we ended up paying it totally off after he had passed away. So they know that and they're part of that. And I didn't ask them to do that. That's something that they wanted to do. We were just discussing like, look, we've come this far and we only owe this much on the thing. And mom, am thinking about doing whatever through this. It's a short season up here. People make wreaths through the Christmas season. And I said, I want to do that. And it was just like a 6-week thing. And so I said, I really want to do that and just put it all towards whatever. And they're like, oh, we want to too. And so that was really cool. And then one of my daughters, she said, yeah, I can stay home and I'll help dad with the kids and whatever, and with Bobby at the time. And then we went and did that. So they understand all those things. As far as life skills go, man, I think my kids have some huge life skills. I mean, right now we have a homestead, so they know how to take care of animals. They know how to garden. They know how to cut down trees. They could be, my son, more than my son, could be like a lumberjack or a tradesman, like a woodsman. Without an issue at all. We teach them how to drive the tractor. Our original house was fairly small, so we said we want to build an addition, and we YouTubed an addition, and we built a over 500 square foot addition onto our home as a family. We just learned how to do it. If we need buildings made, then we just do it. If our plumbing goes kaput, we just do it. And you figure it out, and they learn how to use, they don't need a workbook sheet in order to tell them how to measure an inch. They need a tape measure out there measuring it 2 times before they cut it, because if they mess up, then it's going to be stinky because their piece of wood isn't the right size. That's like the reality of things. They can take a tree down. If I say, okay, cut that at 18 inches, then they know how to cut that at 18 inches. So they don't need worksheets to do that. If they need to know how to do measurements and stuff, then we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we're doing, halves and quarters and eighths and, everything. We have 1 cup measurers, and we just measure it up and down on the measuring cup. So they understand this is an eighth, this is a fourth, this is a, we don't have a bunch of different measuring things. They also know like teaspoons and tablespoons and that type of stuff from there. They know how to cook. They know how to can. They know how to change oil in a car. They know how to change a tire. Obviously, depending on ages and that type of stuff. So as far as like real life living skills, let's see, sewing, crocheting, building, all these things, like I can't think of too many things that they haven't been versed in. My son went to public high school and he was totally bored. But then he went on to college and he got a bachelor's degree, and we had no issues at all. He was fine. Kids are going to want to learn. And so we haven't had any issues at all. If there's something you feel like your kids aren't getting enough of, then just look at a fun way on how to do it, or read them a good story about it. Okay, so it says, how do you meet state requirements and still have unschooling style? And how do you unschool through grumpy and interest in absolutely nothing years? That's actually a real good one. It really is, because there are times where people, I think I went over the unschooling. Do you want to go get a snack? Want to go with Isaac and get snack? Yeah, he's gonna go get snack.
Do you want
Want a piece of candy?
Come on, let's go get like a piece of candy.
They have a little bit of leftover stocking candy, so they're gonna have that. Okay, totally off track. Forgot what I was saying. I know that I went through the state requirements in unschooling as far as the teacher. So how do you unschool through grumpy and interested in absolutely nothing years? I find everyone is different, but I find if I get excited, if I'm constantly learning as a parent, then my children want to learn. And if we're having a time where it's like, no, I don't want to do anything, whatever. Okay, that's okay. And I let them kind of take a step back for a little bit. And then we do some things as a family. I mean, we went to the state house. We have not been researching the state house. We have not been doing anything. I was just like impromptu, okay, we're going to the state house. And so we go to the state house, and then there's all these questions, and all these kids want to learn all this information about the state house. So I think that field trips or vacations or those types of things are really important as part of an unschooling style, and they don't have to cost a lot of money. The State House was free. The Guinness Book World was free. Both of those were free things. We were going to Massachusetts anyway to visit family, so on our way back, we stopped at those two places. If you pretend that you're a tourist in your own area, you will find lots of free things. Sometimes you could just ask somebody, say you know a carpenter, and you could just be like, hey, would you mind if we came down to your construction site? We'll stay a bit back, but if you could just like tell the kids what your job is and go from there, or go to festivals that maybe have like blacksmithing and those types of things, and just pique their interest in different areas. We're planning on going this year to Colonial Williamsburg, so that's going to take some thought and forethought for me to plan and read some stories and go through there. So I think that if they're having an uninterested time, that if you just get out and go someplace, then that is really something that can spark interest. Another thing, if you absolutely can't do that, we prioritize that because that's what's important to us. So we would spend less money on stuff. I mean, most people spend lots of money on curriculum, and we spend very little on curriculum. We don't spend very much on curriculum. So that allows us the opportunity to have the extra funds for gas to go on experiences. And I think that's really key in an unschooling lifestyle. I'm going to try to get another video out at some point that talks about road schooling. And we are not road schoolers, but we do like to travel and get that education from actually seeing things and touching things and doing things hands-on. So there's a lot to be learned in that. So yeah, I think that just getting out there and doing something, even if it's just getting out in nature, maybe there's something in nature that's going to spark their interest. What's that pouty face for, huh? Yeah, so I think that's about it. Was that all the questions? Let me just double check here. I think that's it. So if I didn't answer your questions, or if you have any more questions, just put them down here below and we can always make a second video and answer the questions that need to happen. So, okay, I got one more question from my friend. So I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to show you different ways that you can learn. It's not necessarily I'm just going to show you some of these games, necessarily like book work, but it might be an opportunity for you guys to learn new things. So her question was, what do I do if, say, my husband says, what did they learn in history today? My husband won't ask me what they did in history today. He won't. But if he did now, like he understands the way that we homeschool now. In the beginning, he may not have. He might have been like, "Oh, what are they doing?" or whatever. So you do not have to do history every single day. You don't. You don't have to do history every single day. You don't have to take Sundays off. You don't have to take Saturdays off. You don't have to take whatever day off that you want. It's your life. It's your homeschool. It's what you want to do at the timing that you want to do it. If your husband wants to know what they're doing in history or wants to be part of doing whatever in history, no, you don't need to be louder than mama. Or wants to know what they're doing in history, ask him, what would you like for them to learn in history? Say he wants them to learn about World War I. That's really important to him because his grandfather was in that war or something like that. Let's just hypothetically. So then what I would do is I would look up historical fiction World War I. And I would look for a book that looked like maybe 150, 200 pages, something like that. And I would get that book and I would read that out loud to my children. Hopefully, it's engaging. Hopefully, they'll ask lots more questions and you'll be able to answer those questions. You'll look things up and you'll do those things on a daily basis if and when they need that information. But my husband wouldn't say, "What did you do for history today?" because he knows that I'm not doing math from this time to this time, English to this time, language arts to this time. Like he knows that I'm not doing it like that. He knows that I'm going to be creative, and he can see the results of that now that we've been doing it for so long. Because I've been homeschooling for 26 years now. 26 years. Okay, let's just pretend it's not 26 years. Anyway, so we've been doing it a long time. And I really feel my beginning years, I homeschooled very strict like this. And I feel like they got some information, but they weren't really like engaged and really excited about learning. Where I want them to be excited about learning. We're all learners. If I want to learn something right now, say I want to learn what's something that I want to learn this week. This week, I want to learn what an affiliate to Amazon is and who can become an affiliate to Amazon, because people have asked me about specific products on this side that we're using, and I would like to figure out how to do that. So if I want to learn that information, I don't need somebody to tell me how to learn that information. If I'm a learner, if I've been taught to be a learner, or I'm been allowed to have a step back to be a learner, then I can go and find that information myself. I can find YouTube videos. I can look for articles. I can find that information myself. My boys just bought a piano. They've already learned, this is like right before Christmas that they got it. They've already learned songs because that's what they want to do. They wanted to learn how to play piano, so they'll learn it themselves. Some days they might be doing that for hours. Some days there might not be time for that. Some days we might be playing whatever for a while. Some days I might just be taking one person and playing cribbage. It doesn't have to be like a specific thing. And you're like, oh, great, cribbage. You know, what are they going to learn in that? Math. You have to learn so much math in cribbage. You're doing 15 for 2, 15 for 4. Okay? Doesn't have to be difficult. Just get out there, have fun, and play with your kids. Get out there, go visit places, and have fun. These games are all great. So I'll show you the inside of Guess 10 games because there's a bunch of these. So this is Guess 10 States of America. And we have these you can actually play so many different ways. So this is our state of Maine, and it has 3 words on top. So if different ways that we have played this game, I might say, okay, everyone might be like sitting around and I might be like, okay, I'm giving you these clues, and whoever guesses the state that I'm going on, then you get the card. Whoever has the most cards at the end is the winner. So I'd be like, coastal, New England, Augusta. And then they'd get a dinger, raise their hand, whatever you want to do, and then they'd get the card. Okay? Another thing is you could read these and do the same style and have them to do that. Sometimes we'll have, so they're learning a lot of information. They're learning capitals, they're learning states. Sometimes we will, this can be for like kids that are grown. It's not just, okay, school age kids, come on, we're doing this right now. The little kids can get in on it and ding the bell or whatever they want to do. So another game that you could play with these cards is you could have like 2 teams. You could, I'm trying to think of different ways we played. We've actually played it like along with another board game that we have. So we would kind of like say the surrounding areas. Well, it's going to be confusing without the other board game out. So anyway, they have these guess 10 games, and that is how it is. So another way. So this is the way that you're supposed to do it. Is they can ask you 10 questions, or I think this is how you're supposed to do it. They can ask you 10 questions, and then if in those 10 questions they can answer it, then they get the card. That's another way that you can play, and you can do that with teams as well. The teams works. I think the teams works really well with that style, and so they have a bunch of them. It depends on whatever you're looking to learn about at that point. So this is Guess 10 World Animals. And so let's just take one out. So this is octopus. So they can ask the questions, or you can give them like these right here, those words, to try to get people to answer those. Do you want to hold these for a minute? I'm showing the people the things, the games, and then you can sit on my lap. Okay. Oh goodness. Okay. Then there's also these series of games. They're called Professor Noggin. And we've also played these different ways. Sweetie, I love you. We've played these so much. So one person, so we'd make a circle. This is our favorite way to do it. I don't know if this is the original way or not, but we'll go in a circle. And on the back, there is student and scholar with 3 questions. So they would roll the dice. They would roll the dice and say they got a 3. Then you would ask them, student or scholar, which question would they like? So say here they wanted student. What bay is located between Maryland and Virginia? And then they have to answer Chesapeake Bay. If they answer that correctly, then they get the card. So then they get to keep that card. And then you move on to the next person. That person that just answered would be asking your next person the question. So that is how that game goes. So somebody specifically had asked about the presidents of the United States. So there is a Professor Noggin about the presidents of the United States, if you are interested. This game is really good to help middle and younger kids. So there are 2 types of cards. Let's see. What are these ones called? These cards would go in the way we play most, would go in the middle of the table, and then people would be dealt cards like this, and so you'd flip that over, and then people would look, oh look, and they try to match it with the top there. But it tells you crustaceans, reptiles, dinosaurs, like different categories of animals, mammals. Quick Picks does have other games as well, not just animals. This game, I do not even know how you really play this game, to be honest with you. We play it differently. So there's little
Ow,
maps.
ow, ow, ow,
played-
ow, ow.
Why are you saying ow? So there is a map of the United States with all the states on it. There's actually 4 of them. So people can, you may play with these here. There's 2 types of cards. We mainly use these cards. So what we would do is, there's a couple of different ways. I might pick up a card and be like, capital, Little Rock, land of opportunity. Like I would just go slow and say, Little Rock, land of opportunity. So if somebody already knows the capital, then they're going to say Arkansas, and then they're going to win. And then I'm going to say Arkansas, and then they're going to be like, oh, it's right here, and they're going to point on their thing where it is. If I say the state, then they're going to point on their thing. So they have to know the state and where it is, and then they would get to keep this card. Another thing that we have done with these is what have we done with these? I'm trying to think. I think we used other cards at the same. I think they're these cards. Let's see. There is an actual game with both of these. Okay, so what I did before is I picked out some of these cards. Not all of them, but I picked out some of these, like what's east of the Missouri. So they would have to look and find it on there, and then they'd get to keep those cards. So that is that. I have another one that is the United States. I think it's still out in the. I think it's out in the other room.
Can you help me with this one? Can you help me?
Yes, I can help you with that one. So there's so many different ways to learn that don't have to be the traditional. I mean, if you sit there and you're like trying to get them to memorize, like in rote memory, they might not memorize it, but like to have a game and just be like, hey guys, let's play this game or whatever. Most kids are going to be like, yeah, let's play a game. That'll be fun. And don't make it into a, come on, we have to play the game now. I mean, and it doesn't have to be specific games like this. If you're playing Yahtzee, a younger child's learning how to count the dots and add things up or count the spaces forward. It doesn't have to be a specific game like, hey, we're learning here. Just live life and let them learn as they go. And if they're starting to count, then you help them count, right? So if we're going to count, I'll put these ones in. Can you give me another one? 1. Can you get the one down there?
Yeah.
But if you start even going up the stairs and counting with them or whatever, I know a lot of people are worried about like as they get older, but really it starts when they're younger. If you are always learning with them when they're younger, counting up the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you are adding things when you're like grocery shopping, we'll do mental math and we'll just be like, okay, I'm going to round this up to 5. Okay, +2, plus this. Or it might be, okay, these bananas are 59 cents per pound, we want 15 pounds. How much is that going to be? Just get them with you, get them learning. So that is how it is. As far as husbands go, I would just talk to my husband about the ideas that you have. I'm not saying like not answer your husband, but to say that you want to try a whole new way of homeschooling. That's kind of what I did. I said, hon, As you can see, I'm struggling with this child or these children, and I just want to try this whole new approach to homeschooling. And I'd appreciate it if you could just be on board for a while with me and understand that this is, they have to kind of detox from the regular system. They have to come back and not learn for a while. There might be 3 months of nothing, and that's part of the deschooling process, because if they're always been taught that they have to learn this right now, their brain's not thinking and learning how to play. It's just like if a child is always used to doing electronics or something in the house, using game systems and that type of stuff, and then you put them outside, they're just going to stand there like, what do I do? They don't have that natural ability to go build forts, to go, use their imagination to create games. They don't have that ability to be able to do that. They have to be in that environment for a certain amount of time before they can move forward. And the same thing is going to happen in your homeschool. So ask your husband if he could please be patient with you, because you want to work towards doing this. And honestly, I would do that. I wouldn't do some school and then some of this. I would take 3 months and say, I'm doing nothing but going on field trips. I'm doing nothing but going on field trips and reading fun books. Not things that you would think, oh, that's educational. No, go to places and just experience and let your kids learn to learn again, learn to think again. So they're not always having to be taught how to think. So I hope that you liked this, and I will talk to you. So if you like this style of video, please like and subscribe. Subscribe and give us a thumb. Give us a thumbs up. I can't see it. Can you see it? There we go. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.